Hi everyone, welcome to the July 2026 Halloween and Holiday Addicts Anonymous meeting. This month we are going to be working on a little travel mug that I picked up at Dollar Tree. Now they're in the craft supply department, but if you can't find yours, I do have some on my website. So don't worry if you can't find it. You can get them with this pink top. It's kind of pinky purple. Or you can get them with a black top. The original was painted in the pink, but for this video I'm going to use the black one. So anyway, this is a cool little item that you could use for so many things. So many of your designs you already have could probably be adapted to this. So what happens is when you buy this little guy, you're going to unscrew the insert. And there's a template in there. So if you're going to cut your own watercolor paper and put the pattern on, you'll want to have this template so you can get the right size. But if you want to save time, I do have the insert already cut and printed on watercolor paper, and that's available on my website also. So I'm here to make it easy for you, okay? So once you get that template, either from me or if you make your own, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to end up painting our little guy on this watercolor paper. And then what you do is you just kind of roll it up and you stick it in this part. You put the insert back in and twist it shut. Put the lid on, and there you go. You've got your cute little Halloween travel mug. All right, so easy peasy. Nothing too hard about that, especially if you go ahead and get the project already printed on the watercolor paper. So all of the base painting that we do on this piece is going to be done with washes of color. So don't be too heavy. Usually like to start off with like about 80% water and 20% paint. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I'm going to get out a little puddle of Blue Harbor here. Let me adjust my palette camera a little bit. And I'm going to get out a larger brush. I think this is probably a 3/4 inch. It's an old brush. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to base in the sky area with a wash of Blue Harbor. So here I have my puddle of paint. I'm going to pick up some water and I'm going to pull that paint off to the side and thin it down quite a bit. I even want to thin that a little bit more. Better to be too light than too dark, okay? I think that looks pretty good. So my brush is pretty much loaded, but I'm going to blot it because I don't want it to be so juicy. You know what I mean? I don't know if you know what I mean, but we'll pretend you do. So let's get a little closer on this guy. So I'm just going to start painting, and it's okay if it's a little sketchy because the sky isn't perfect. I mean, seriously. It's all different colors. So I'm just going to paint in this little guy here. And see, I'm going to slip slap these larger areas in so I can cover more area quicker, okay? So Blue Harbor makes a pretty sky. So you do want to avoid as much as you can the bat and the moon and the pumpkin down there. But work quickly, okay? If you get a little bit on there, it'll be okay. Especially the bats, because they're painted in black or graphite anyway. Okay. So this, you need to work a little quickly, but look at all that different, those different areas I have there. I kind of like that. So I'm going to go above his ears, around the top of the moon. Slip slap as much as you can so that you can blend it a little bit more. I'm going to add some clouds to this. I need to get in here and get around his face a little bit. Now see, I got on my bat, but it'll be okay. A little bit here and there, it won't hurt. Like I said, he gets painted in black. So I need to thin down my paint a little bit. I need to pull another puddle out so I can go back and finish this side. So again, just work as quickly as you can to get this background painted in this blue harbor. Oh, we're almost done already. Look at that. Need a little bit more paint. Didn't pull out enough the last time. Got a little lighter, but that's okay. Now if you have these little dark spots or the solid edges, the hard lines, you can go in and just kind of slip slap on top of them, and that should help to blend them out a little bit. Okay, I got a couple over here that I want to get rid of. Okay, so cool. Our sky is based in. So what you want to do now is you want to get out a brush that you like to dry brush with or stipple with. I use either the Dynasty 200 or the Langnickel Royal Sable Sharp Round. We're going to get out some warm white, and what we're going to do is we are going to put the clouds in the sky. And I kind of want to do that while this is still a little damp. Let me make as much noise as I can. So you can see I've gone through and just kind of stippled or smushed some clouds in the sky. All right, so we're going to do that with warm white, and I'm going to pick up warm white on my brush, and then I'm going to get into that juicy blue a little bit. It means it has a little bit of water in it. A little bit more. I want it to be more white than blue. And I'm just going to start putting in some little clouds. And you just kind of scrub them in there. Give them some billows. And then some flat areas, okay? Think like a cloud. Let's see, I want to take this one. Whoops. No problem, because it's still damp, so I can spread it out a little bit. Okay. So reload. Be sure you pick up a little bit of that juicy blue, so you're not going directly with warm white. But clouds can go wherever you'd like them. Okay. And we'll come back and we'll highlight them just a little bit. This would be a good thing to do if there's areas that have a lot of hard lines that you want to get rid of. Okay. Again, I'm going to pick up some juicy blue and then some warm white. You can take the clouds as far down as you'd like. I'm going to go a little bit farther than I did on the original, just because I can. And you see, by picking up some of that juicy blue, it's a little bit easier to blend it into the background a little bit. So let's get some clouds over here on this side. It's just very loose, okay? Don't get stuck in doing, trying to do perfect clouds, because they change all the time. So all right. See, I kind of wiped out some of the areas that had the hard lines, and that's what I wanted to do. So that's why I didn't worry about it too much when I was putting the background color on. All right, so what we want to do now, rinse that brush out. You can put as many clouds as you like in. What I want to do is I want to get out my flat brush. This one is a 1/2 inch. And I'm going to float some shading on the sky behind the clouds. And I'm going to do that with straight blue harbor. Okay, blend it out really well. You want it to be nice and soft. And I'm just going to go kind of in behind the clouds a little bit, just to make them stand out a little bit more. And let's see, let's have a little bit here. Don't worry too much, because we're going to come back and highlight those billows a little bit. Okay, so they're going to look kind of not cloudy right now. And we're going to do a few other little shades. And you can even float shading where you didn't have a cloud. It doesn't really matter, because you can come and put it in now after this. So I'm going to go up here. I think I have one here. One here. I also want to float this blue harbor above the grass, and I'm going to go around the moon, around the bats. It's a little bit of shading, but it doesn't have to be perfect, okay? So don't panic too much. I'm going to go around the pumpkin, around the bat, just whatever is on top of the clouds, the sky. I'm going to tuck some shading next to it, okay? Again, you don't have to be perfect. That's what's really nice about this. Especially on that grass, because we're going to paint some blades that will kind of cover up those edges a little bit. Okay, so probably fast forward through this, because it's just your basic adding some shading to the background. All right, there, shading is done. So we can go back now with our brush that we painted our clouds with. This time we're going to pick up just plain warm white. It's okay if it has a little water in it because we're not dry brushing, okay? And what I want to do is I want to kind of just highlight the tops of those clouds a little bit, okay? See how much nicer those clouds look now? So you can do it, you can go over that edge that you created with your shade and soften that up. And if you want to make more billows, now's the time. All right, I'm going to pick up a little water and do my other clouds. Still working with straight warm white. So see how I use my finger just to kind of blend that tail out. Easy peasy. Midnight sky. I just wanted to add a couple more little wisps down here. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I think I want to highlight this one just a little bit more. This is one I just added, so. And you can use your fingers to blend, it's great. All right, so we're going to call the sky done. All right, we're going to work on the moon next, and I started to get a little ahead of myself, but I caught myself before I went too far. So what we're going to do is you want to take a round brush, and this is a, if I could read the number, which I can't, I think it's probably a 4. And we're going to paint in the moon with a wash of moon yellow. How appropriate is that? So just a nice wash of moon yellow, paint in the whole moon. And that should go pretty quickly. Again, if you get into the bats, it's okay because they're going to get painted lamp black. Moon goes a lot faster than that sky, duh. Okay. Looking pretty good already. So then what I want to do is I want to take my a brush that I like, the one like we did the clouds with. This one's just a little bit smaller. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up some warm white, no water, and I'm just going to kind of dry brush, not really dry because the paint's still wet, but I want to lighten up the top right half of the moon. So above the bat wings, basically. I'm just going to scrub in some warm white to lighten that up a little bit. And it may take just a couple little times to do it, but it doesn't take that long. All right, so I've lightened up that top right half. So now I'm going to come back with my flat brush And I'm going to float some shading, blend it out. You want it to be nice and soft. I'm going to go in the bottom left half mainly, but I'm going to go around the bat's ear. And I'm making this a pretty wide float. Okay, and then around this bat. So I've kind of filled up that bottom left half, but I also want to touch a little bit of this shading around this bat that's in the highlighted part. So just blend it out a little bit more because you don't need a whole lot of shading in that highlighted part. All right, I need to blend this a little bit. All right, now I want to take just a touch of burnt umber, and I'm going to deepen that shading basically below this ear. It's a little bit dark for me, but I'll blend it out. And just in this very bottom here, I want to deepen that shading a little bit. And if you have your mop brush handy, which I should, there it is. You can go ahead and mop it and blend it a little bit more. Got kind of a line, but I'm okay with that. Okay, now if you want, you don't have to, but you can, and I'm going to. You can float a little bit brighter highlight across the top right of this moon, just to clean up any edges or anything. All right, so there, our moon is done. Now if you wanted to get real fancy, you could paint some little craters on there and everything, but I'm not going to get that fancy. But it's your piece, you do what you want. So now what we want to do is we want to get out some lamp black. And we'll use a little bit of our Blue Harbor. Don't need much lamp black. And my Blue Harbor is dry because actually it's another day. So I'm going to get out just a touch of Blue Harbor. Maybe. Okay. And so I'm going to take a liner brush, a small one, because you don't want to get outside. This is a 2/0. You could do a 10/0. You might be able to get away with a 1, but I'd go as small as you have. Make a wash of lamp black, and you're going to paint in your little bats. So these you kind of want to be careful, a little more careful. That brush is not working real well, is it? There we go. So just paint these guys in with that wash of lamp black. So I'm going to fast forward through this since there's not a whole lot of talking I can do. Well, I guess I could do, but I'm not going to. Alright, so I've got my bats painted in. And the next thing I want to do is I want to take the same liner brush and I'm just going to thin down a little bit of Blue Harbor. It doesn't have to be as thin as if you were base painting this in. And we're just going to add some little touches of highlights on our bats. So what I want to do, sorry, What I want to do first is I want to pretend like there's a little body here. And I think I'll go ahead and pick up a little warm white, just to lighten that Blue Harbor up a little bit. So I'm going to pretend like its little body is right there. You can do that on all 3 of them. And then you want to maybe line just a touch here on the bottom of the wings. Kind of hard to do when they're so skinny, but I know you can do it. Especially on this little guy. But if you get a little bit, just a little touch in there, it makes a difference. Gives them a little bit more shape. Okay, so there, you can kind of tell they're bats now. I'm just gonna bump that up a little bit. All right, that was easy, right? No shading, just a little bit of line highlighting. So the next thing we're going to work on is we are going to work on our headstone. And I think I want to go ahead and paint that in with a really, really light wash of lamp black. So use your flat brush and thin that black paint down quite a bit. We just want a gray. We don't really want black. Okay, cool. So if you thinned it down enough, you should get a nice light gray color. And again, if it has little like splotches and stuff like that, that's okay. It's an old headstone. In fact, you want kind of splotches and lighter and darker spots. That'll just make it look older. Okay, that was quick and easy. So what I want to do now is I'm going to float some warm white along this front edge of that headstone. Just to make it stand out a little more. So when you're doing this, you can leave a little bit more paint on your brush than you normally would. Then what I want to do is I want to float with some lamp black. Blend it out really well. I'm going to go above the grass on the headstone. And I'm going to go ahead and go next to the bat's body. And then I also want to go along the back edge. I'm so sorry about my voice. So we're starting at the top here in that little skinny part. I'm going to go down this back edge. And then I'm also going to come on the other side. So that little side section gets floated on both sides. Okay. I think I'm going to go ahead and darken right here a little bit. All right. So what we want to do is I'm going to take my little liner brush again, and I'm just going to add this little crack here. And you can add as many cracks as you'd like. I'm just going to take some of that lamp black. You don't have to thin it down too much because you really want it to be kind of black. And pick a spot and just kind of do a little tornado shape or however you envision a crack. And make it go on both sides of that line, okay? All right, now if you wanted to add another crack, you could go over here, maybe add a crack. It is pretty old. And maybe one over here. Just a little one. Okay, moving right along. We'll do the lettering with our Sharpie pen so that we can do it a little easier. All right, so the next thing we want to do, we can go ahead and do our bat. And what we're going to do with our bat is we want to base him in with some lavender, a wash of lavender. And I think you can do that with your flat brush mostly. But the whole guy, wings and body, everything gets lavender. Forget his wing on the other side. It's above the cup. And then there's a little piece poking out here. And we'll come back and put that in with our round. Or maybe the corner of our... Yeah, that works. Now his ears, you just want to do the top of his ears. To get a little bit more lavender thinned down. Try to avoid his eyes and his little teeth. Again, if you get it in there, it's okay. Nose is okay because we're going to paint the nose in black as I painted over his tooth. It'll be okay. Now I'm going to go over this little guy again because I want him to be a little bit more purple, and I want to try to even him out a little bit more. I don't want him to be quite as blotchy as the other things I've been painting. So I'm just going to darken him up a little bit. Okay, that looks much better already. And we've got highlighting and some shading and some cheeks and stuff to put on him. So that's all gonna make him look cute. And again, that little wing over here. Okay. So again, what I want to do is I want to just kind of scrub some highlighting with warm white on the top of his ears. And I kind of got on the sky, but I'll get rid of that. Since that purple is still a little wet, it's a little easier to scrub this highlight in. I'm going to go to the top of his head, kind of down to his eyes. Let's do his, right above his mouth here. Lighten up his little top of his mouth. And go ahead and lighten up his cheek area. Even though we're going to put some cheeks on there. Let's go ahead and lighten up his little wings. Don't forget the ones over here. I don't think you need to lighten up that little thing. And then you're going to lighten up his body. Okay. So let's go ahead and float some shading on this guy. All right, so purple iris, you want to blend it out really well. You don't want it to be too dark. So I'm going to come down the side of his body. I'm going to go across the bottom above the grass. I think I have a little too much water in my float. I'm going to count on his body next to the cup. And under his little chin. Let's go on his wing next to his body and next to his head. So let's go ahead and get on this little wing over here. This teeny tiny one, you're just going to stick the corner of your brush in there. And it basically gets filled up with purple iris. We'll go next to his head on this wing and next to the cup. We're going to go on his ears next to the head. Okay. And then you also want to go, let me get this other ear here. You also want to go just in the point, the tip of the ear. You want to pull some of this purple iris. Okay, so now his head, we basically want to float all the way around the outside edge of his head. So I'm going to go I'm going to start at the top and work my way down. And that's going to end up going above that cup. I got his teeth all purple, but it'll be okay. And then I'm going to come up the other side. Okay, I also want to float this purple iris under his mouth and around his little teeth. And a little bit right in here, a little bit darker. And then I also want to take a liner brush, and you know I always do this. And with that purple iris, thin down a little bit, I'm going to line a shadow around the top of his eyes. And as long as we're working with purple iris and a liner brush, let's give him a couple of little eyebrows. So just a couple of little strokes for eyebrows. Let's go ahead and paint in his complete eyes and his teeth with warm white. That'll cover up that purple I got in there. Straight warm white, you don't have to thin it down. All right, one eye done. Let's get those teeth done. All right. We have lamp black. So let's go ahead with thin lamp black. Go ahead and paint in his little nose. And you can go ahead and paint in the big part, the big dot in his eyes. It's going to be a little gray because that white is still wet. Having trouble painting a circle today. Too much water. Oh, that's better. I just had too much water in there. So now let's darken up this other one. Cool, he's starting to look cute now. All right, so I am going to take some bright salmon. It's color I used to use a lot. And I'm going to paint in his ears with a wash of bright salmon, the inside of his ears. I don't know why I quit using it. I guess other colors came out. But anyway, just a quick little coat of thin down bright salmon. And let's go ahead and take a round brush and just pick up some of that thin down bright salmon and give him some nice round cheeks. They're not dry brushed on, they're just painted on circles, okay? You can make them big, you can make them small, whatever you'd like. I try to keep them round. And while I let this dry a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and paint in the top of my coffee cup with warm white. Oh, not doing a very good job. So I give you permission to have a little oopsie now and then, right? Alrighty. Top of my coffee cup painted. So I'm going to come back to my ears and I'm going to shade them basically around every edge, the inside of my ears, with that bright salmon. Okay. I'm going to take a little bit of Blue Harbor, straight Blue Harbor, and I'm going to float that inside the top of his little nose. Just a little touch of Blue Harbor in there. Now I need to get out some Irish moss, and I'm going to float a little half circle of Irish moss in the bottom of each eye. So you don't have to thin it down, just a regular old little float. And again, I didn't put it all the way down on the bottom. I left a little ring of lamp black in the bottom of the eye. So this float sits just a touch above the bottom. Now I realize I forgot to shade his body in a couple places. So let's go back to our purple iris. What I want to do is I want to shade under these sections here. That looks much better. Okay. Yeah, now his wings look better. So let's take some very well blended out lamp black. You can just pick up some of that thin lamp black that you have and corner load into it, because we want to float this lamp black across the top of each tooth. Just to put it, I guess I could have got a little bit more black. You don't want too much. You just want to set those teeth into his mouth. And then I'm also going to float that very well blended out lamp black in the top and the bottom of each eye. I know it's kind of scary, but just a tint. And that helps set his eyes into his head. Alrighty. We need to give him a couple of highlights, dots in his eyes. And those are just going to be warm white. And you just dot them in the top of the black part of his eyes. As long as I have warm white, I'm just going to highlight the tips of his teeth a little bit to bring them back up. Now if you wanted to, and I think I do, I'm going to give a little highlight on the top of his cheeks. And I feel like I need to bring some of that highlight back into the center. Oh, I didn't even do a highlight in the center of his, inside of his ear. So I'm just going to take my round brush and I'm just going to scrub some warm white inside his ears. And just kind of blend it back in. So just through the center of the inside of his ears. Let's highlight that a little bit. Look at him. Let's go ahead and float a little bit of warm white on the tips of his wings. All right. I think that we can call our little bat guy done. So let's work on our coffee cup. So I'm going to paint in, I'm going to do a little bit more to this coffee cup than I did to the original one. I'm going to go ahead and base it in with a wash of moon yellow. We've already done the lid, painted that with warm white. So now we're just going to paint our coffee cup with moon yellow. Let's go ahead and let that dry a little bit. And while we do, let's take some Blue Harbor, side load float of Blue Harbor, and float the side edges of this lid of the coffee cup. So now you need your little piece of drywall joint tape, which is this tape that has the little holes. And what I want to do is I want to add some interest to this coffee cup. And so I'm going to lightly stencil probably the bright salmon. So I'm just going to line this up a little bit and just, not quite that much. Lightly scrub light salmon onto my cup. And it's going to be kind of washy. That'll be okay. Got a little bit on my lid, so I'm going to wipe that off. If it doesn't want to come off, you can just paint over it. Okay. So we've added a little interest to our cup. So let's let that dry. Let's get out some spiced pumpkin. And let's go ahead and base in our pumpkin. And you can go right over his mouth and eyes. And again, it's a wash. And I'm a little bit oranger. So I'm going to go over it again. So we need to let him dry. I think I'll just hit this with my hair dryer. So I'm going to go back to my coffee cup, and I want to dry brush or scrub. I always dry brush highlighting, so that's why it's coming out dry brush. I'm going to scrub some highlighting on the cup with warm white. And it's going to be kind of the left side and the top. And that calms down those dots a little bit. And the heart and the lettering will do with the pen. Let's dry, let it dry a little bit, and then come back and pop it up just a little bit more. Okay. Now the pumpkin is going to be a little bit not as involved as what I normally do pumpkins. So what we're going to do is we're going to float a little bit of highlight with moon yellow on the outside edge of each section. Not going to show up a whole lot, but it's there. We know it. And I'm going to float some shading with some very well blended out burnt umber. That's going to go next to the center section. And that needs to be softened, okay? So keep a mop brush handy. So if it goes on a little dark, you can soften it. This is also going to go along the bottom next to the grass. And I'm also going to put it in the top of each little section. Now I feel like he needs a little bit more orange. So I'm going to take my round brush and some thin down spice pumpkin, and I'm just going to go over him a little bit more. I can still see that shading, but now I brought up the orange a little bit. Go ahead with a liner brush and paint in the stem with burnt umber. Well, maybe. And you can go ahead and paint in his eyes with some lamp black, thinned a little, and his mouth. ahead and go right over his tooth. It'll be okay. Whoops. Been saying that a lot on this piece. So let's go back to our cup. I want to go ahead and float some shading on that cup. And I'm going to go ahead and do it with some very well blended out burnt umber again. It's going to go under the lid. Down the side, the left side. Above the grass. And next to the pumpkin. Okay. Looks like I got a little brown on there. Of course I did. Okay, now my pumpkin, I want to brighten him up a little bit. Just his little highlights. So I'm going to come in with my liner brush and just line a highlight in those side sections. It's just looking a little sad to me. Probably because his eyes don't have any character. So I think while we let his mouth dry, we will go ahead and paint in the grass area. And that's done with a wash of Irish moss. And again, this can be blotchy too. It's okay. And so what I want to do to this grass, let me back up a little bit, is I'm going to take straight my flat brush and I'm going to corner load it into straight Irish moss. And I'm going to work on my chisel edge. And I'm just going to pull some blades of grass. And you probably want to leave a little bit more paint on the brush. Don't blend it out so much. And just, if you go above the little line there, it's okay. Just pull like you're pulling some blades of grass across there. So again, I'll probably fast forward. So we're just adding some sketchy grass. You know, I feel like every time I go to record a video, my voice decides, oh, let's just get all scratchy and grumbly and not normal. But then again, why would it be normal? The rest of me isn't, so what the heck? Alrighty, we're getting there. Almost done. Yay. As I'm drawing grass, my husband's out mowing grass. Got grass going everywhere. Alright, now we can go back to our little pumpkin. Let's do a little, as long as we're using Irish moss, let's do a little stroke of Irish moss on that stem. Let's do a little float of, I'm going to pick up Blue Harbor, but I want to lighten it quite a bit with warm white. So I'm going to load with Blue Harbor and then load with warm white. So I get a really light blue because I want it to show up. So each of the eyes are going to get a little float of Blue Harbor in the bottom. And I know it looks like he's kind of blind now, but what we can do is come in, wipe your brush out and just kind of wipe that down. Okay. So let's give him a warm white highlight dot in the top of each eye. Just a little one. And then he has a little tooth in his mouth. You can give him more teeth if you want. I just gave him one. And that's warm white. And then we need to give him a couple little cheeks. And that's just that, a wash of that bright salmon. Again, just paint a couple little round cheeks. A little too much water, but it'll be okay. Alrighty. So I think we can go ahead and call this guy done. If there's any place you want to, well, we haven't done the lettering. You want to pop up some highlights or put some more shading in there, please feel free to do so. And I'm going to make sure that the little pumpkin is dry, and then I'm going to come back and use my pen to do the lettering. Okay? Alright, so I have an ultra fine point Sharpie pen, and I'm just going to go through and put on this lettering. It's a black pen. Doesn't have to be filled in completely. Okay. But just go through and fill in your pen. Now, because it's kind of etched on there, it might be a little rough, but it's okay. That's like, this is an old headstone, so That's all right. Luckily, there's not a lot of lettering to do on here. So on your little coffee cup, you're just going to outline that little heart. And I did it a couple times and did like a little squiggly line too, just to make it a little more interesting. And it does say Bat Brew. And then this lettering here, Batty before coffee, same way. So make it a little rough, okay? Which isn't hard to do. But it beats having to paint it in with a brush. So it's kind of sketchy is kind of what you're going for. But you're almost done now. If you wanted to, if you want to outline anything else, that'd be fine. But I probably wouldn't. Okay, so once you get that done, if you wanted to mist it with a matte spray, that'd be fine. But all you want to do is take this little guy, let me back up. Take this little guy and roll him up. Kind of smaller than what your thing is, and pop it in here. And there you go. You've got your little travel mug with your little bat in there. And good job, guys. Thanks. I appreciate you being here, and I can't wait to see what we come up with for next month.